I think we are live. Okay. Hey guys, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. We have three sessions today. First is Anusha. She'll be speaking on Hello World in three programming languages, followed by Dinesh Kumar, who'll be speaking on uh, Azure Synapse, and Jagadish, who will be speaking about Azure functions with SQL bindings. Let me welcome our speakers on the screen right now. Hey, Anusha, good morning.
Hi everyone, good morning.
And Jagadish, good morning,
Hi
Jagadish.
everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you, Swami. Hi everyone. Very good morning. Um,
Okay, Anusha, do you want to share the screen, please?
Yes,
Well,
okay.
okay,
Yeah, hi everyone. Today we'll speak about Hello World in three programming languages. We will do a hands-on session today. And before going into the hands-on, let us discuss few things now. So myself Anusha, and I'm working in AIs from last 4 years. Uh, there are no prerequisites. This is actually meant for the beginners. That's why we don't need any prior knowledge. We are starting with the programming languages, which are most popular. We will do that in a bit later. And I'm going to use Visual Studio Code for doing this hello world programming. Uh, and I am going to write hello world programming in these three languages: Python, C Sharp, and JavaScript. And before actually going into the thing, just even I am also a learner, and if I do any mistake, and please apologize. And today's session will be hands-on. So if you have any queries and anything, we will be having parking slots, and it will be fully hands-on session. And more, we will discuss about the concepts. Okay. And what is our agenda today? First, we will see why we are doing hello world programming in these three different languages, and then we will do our hands-on session hello world programming in the three languages, and we will compare whatever we have done, and we will compare these three languages. And before doing all these things, first we will see why are we doing hello world programming in these three different languages. So when you are a beginner, you want to learn something, you want to park yourself in this software world, in the IT world. So first, if you want to learn any technology, you will start learning with a programming language. So first, what you want to learn is a programming language, which there are actually dozens of languages available today in this industry. So, and these three are Python, C Sharp, and JavaScript. These three are the most popular and used mostly in today's world. Okay. And what is a programming language? Programming language is also a spoken language, and this is the language we use to speak with a machine. So, like we have different languages, we will be having different programming languages. So, we will be having in spoken languages, we will be having different phases to express our different things and different emotions. So, in programming languages, also, we will be having based on their features and based on their use cases, we will be using different programming languages in different scenarios. So it is just nothing but like a spoken language you are using to speak with your machine what it has to do. That's it. That is nothing but a programming language. Uh, so what we will do? Based on which programming language we have to learn, that we will discuss in the end of the session. So why we are doing hello world programming. So while learning programming language, any developer or any newcomer, they will first see hello world program. That is where you see how the programming language looks like and how it can be run and everything. The only the environment will be shown while doing hello world programming, and it is the base to start while learning any programming language. So that is the reason why we are doing hello world programming today. And let us go and do some programming. So I'm going to use VS Code editor here. So here I have a demo folder, and inside it I have created three new folders for our three new programming languages. So first I am going to do a Python hello world programming. So for that I am going to create a new file inside it. So I'm going to name it as demo, and the extension should be IPYNB. So IPYNB is nothing but a Python notebook coder. So that is used because here we can write our code, and here itself we can execute it and see the result. So for writing hello world program into the output, we use the command print. So print hello world. So if you see here, when we have everything installed for this Python program, so this VS Code is giving suggestions while we are typing the keywords. So print is the command that we use to write a line into the output console in Python programming. Here, actually, in the inside this box, we can write our code, and using this, you can execute here itself and see your results. So see here it is printing hello world. So just instead of just doing a hello world, I want to just input the user's name and say hello to that username. So let us see how you can do that in Python. So first time, so for taking input, the input is the command, and I'm just asking what is your name. This is the text it will show before you it is asking for input. So that this input statement, it will give you some output, because whatever you enter your name, so that will be taken, and we have to store that in a variable. So for that I am taking a variable called name. Now I am printing this name. So yes, here, this input is taking your name as input and passing that to name. Name here is a variable, that is a placeholder. If you want to store any value, you need a placeholder, and you are giving a name to that placeholder, that is called variable. So here I'm using a name, and that name I am going to print here. And this operator will append these two texts and prints the same. So now if I want to execute this, here it is asking me for my name. I am just entering my name. So here it is showing hello Anuja. And this is how hello world programming in Python works. And if you see, everything in Python is in small letters, and we are not using any semicolon. Actually, in traditional programming languages, we use semicolons, that we will say now. So in Python, we don't use any semicolons. And also, I will tell you about this variable later after we do JavaScript and C Sharp. So now, this is about how we do a hello world programming in Python. Now let us see how we can do a programming hello world program in C Sharp. So for doing in C Sharp, I am just going to my console, and here I am seeing And here what I'm going to do is, here I'm going my command prompt here, terminal, for writing and for running my C# programming. So let me go to. So I'm inside my C# folder now, and here I'm going to create a new C# application. C# actually is developed for creating applications. Like if you want to create any Windows application, or if you want to create any uh, browser front end applications, or if you want to create any games or anything, so for creating these applications, C sharp is most popular, and it is basically developed for that. So for creating a new C sharp application, so now I am going doing .NET new, and I am going to create a console application. So now I am giving .NET console. See here it has given me, if you see inside my C sharp, I have just given .NET new console. So it created all these things actually. So what it created is whatever is required for a console application, it created all the basic things. If you go inside your program, see, and this is the basic hello world programming in C sharp. So console is like a object, console object that we can actually talk with. So we can just run this. This is a basic program. While you're creating any new application, it will give. So we can just run this and see if you are getting this hello world as output or not. So, and before doing that, console is an object, and if you want to write anything into that console, we use this method, write line. And if you see in C sharp, all these things are starting with capital letters. So that is how it is created. So it needs everything in a capital letter. Now, if you want to execute it, we are going into our console, and I am going .NET run. See here it is printing hello world. So like we have done in Python, if I want to input some name, username, and take that username and say hello to that name, then what I have to do here, I have command like. See here, since it is C sharp, our VS Code generally based on the programming, it will give you all those mm, uh, whatever suggestions here. So whatever is available with this keyword, those all those keywords will be suggested here. So I am going to write console dot. I am going to give a write. So what this console dot write will do, this will write a line. Actually it will not just output, it will display this text, and it will not go into the next command. It will wait for you to input something. So the difference between write and write line is, write line is encoded with a new line coder, but write is not encoded with a new line coder. But now how you want to receive the input from the user in .NET is console dot readline. So using this command, whatever the user inputs, you can actually receive. But where you receive is where, here you need to create a variable. So if you see here in this C sharp, everything is ending with a semicolon, which is not required in Python. And also If you see here, the name here, I am going to declare it as a variable. And then only it will take this as a variable. Otherwise, it will give me a error. So we have to explicitly define declare a variable before we are going to use it. So now I am going to print hello and the name whatever the user enters. Now I am going to save and run this. So here it is asking me my name. So I'm just entering Anusha, and it is printing hello Anusha. This is how hello world in C sharp works. Now we will see how we do the same thing in JavaScript. Okay. In JavaScript also I am going to create a new file called demo.js is the extension for JavaScript. Now, in the actually JavaScript is developed for using in web browsers. So it is actually meant to run inside a web browser. So popularly it is used for front end applications. So for JavaScript also for printing any line, we need a console dot. See, we here we are using console is the object that we are going to, and these are the sessions in this inside this object. These are the methods we have, and log is the method we use to print any text inside the control. So I am using hello world here. And in JavaScript, you can use semicolon or not. Both are accepted. And if you see here, all the keywords are starting with lowercase letters. And all these three programmings are case sensitive only. So because if the keyword is starting with the lowercase letter, we should use the same. Or if it is starting with the uppercase letter, we should use the same. Now I have written my hello world program in JavaScript. Let me run this JavaScript program and see the output. So now I'm going to my JavaScript. For running JavaScript, now here I'm using Node and demo.js. See here it is printing hello world. But now I want to input something and input that name as a hello and that username, because it is actually needed a web browser to do all those things. Now here I am just uh, I'm just giving a variable hard coded. I'm just giving a hard code name and using this to print the name. So let me run this. Yeah, see here it is showing hello Anusa. And in JavaScript also, if you see, we have to explicitly declare our variable. This is my variable. Only in Python, we don't need to declare, and we can directly use a variable to store any value. And that is the most useful thing in Python because of its use cases. Now come back to our this one. So we have seen hello world in Python and hello world in C sharp, hello world in JavaScript also. We have executed all those things. And let us see the use cases and the nature of these three languages. Okay. So three languages are useful in their platforms. So the primary, now we will discuss the primary uses of these languages. And Python, it is most popular in data science, where we don't know which data is coming and which data we are storing in a variable. In those cases, uh, Python is very useful, because just we have seen, we don't need to declare a variable, we don't need to know what is we are storing inside a variable. For that reason, it is very popular, and also has many things that supports a data science platform. And also it is used in web backend and DevOps. In many DevOps automations also, nowadays we are using Python. And if you come to C sharp, C sharp is basically actually developed for applications only. So if you want to develop any console application, if you want to develop any web application, Android or games, whatever it is mostly widely C sharp is used. So that is where C sharp is very popular and mostly used. And JavaScript is basically it is developed for browser applications. In browsers, if you want to run any code, so for that reason, you JavaScript is developed, and mostly it is used in front end applications. And nowadays you are using in backend, but mostly we are using JavaScript for front end applications. And here, if you come to typing in Python, it is dynamic. Typing here, in the sense, it is not a keyboard typing, it is a variable type, data type of the programming language. In Python, we can, if a variable is meant to have a string or characters, it can be changed in Python. Okay. And that is the reason here it is dynamic. But in case in C sharp, it is not possible. So C sharp has having some strict rules and structures, where we cannot change the type of a variable. So that is why here it is static. And in JavaScript also, we can change the type of a variable. So that is why here it is dynamic. And if you come to syntax in Python, actually white space matters. That means wherever you are using tab and wherever you are using line space and line characters, all those matters. That's why we don't give any semicolon in Python. Python itself, it takes a statement as a command. So whatever you give any line character, wherever you give any tab, that has a meaning in Python. So whereas this is not the case in case of C sharp and JavaScript. But C sharp is a very traditional language, where it is having strict rules and structures we must follow for application development. And JavaScript is like, as here it mentioned, it is quirky. So, and the key benefits of these three programming languages. And Python, it is readability, and we get more versatile libraries and communities. If you want to do any Python, if you want to do anything in Python, you will be having many support from many libraries and communities. And if it comes to C sharp, it is very mature and stable. It is very popular in enterprise. So for, as I told earlier, it is most popular for application development. If you want to develop any applications, most probably they use C sharp. And JavaScript, nowadays the JavaScript language is using in many platforms. So the benefit of this is, it is very speed, and it is versatile and interoperable. So these are the comparison. And the question now is, if you want to learn any programming language, with which programming language you want to start, if you are a beginner. So that you need to decide based on if you are, what you are going to actually do. If you are going to do a data science, then you need to start a Python. Or if you want to go for application development or backend development, then you need to choose C sharp or if you want to go for a front end development, then you need to choose JavaScript. So based on your use case, based on the your target and your approach, the you need to select your language, and that's all. So we cannot say this is the programming language if you have to learn based on your need, or based on your target, or based on your uses. You need to choose your programming language and proceed. And yeah, this is all about programming languages, hello world programming. And yeah, if you have anything, please type here. I can share, I can reply to you in the chat. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anusha. That was a nice session. Writing in a hello world in a three different languages. So
Yeah, that's correct, Jagadish. I mean, uh, learning multiple languages. Hey, Dinesh, uh, welcome. Just now, Anusha completed. We just wanted to have a quick 1 minute discussion on if you're learning, even though if you're learning three different languages, does that mean that you will go and code in three different languages? We might or we might not. But this is my perspective. You guys can add your own. But what I'm telling is, in nowadays, what is happening is uh, we are all going moving towards microservices, and we have to do the integration with another microservice. Or very simple, we have a Blazor WASM application, and we have to integrate with the server. That server would have been written in Node.js or in Python or Go language or anything else. But to do a basic integration, to understand a little bit of that, or to debug, we just need to know a little bit of fundamentals of what that programming language is. Rest of the things are purely uh, our logic, and the syntax might be different. Someone might use the semicolon. Some programming language they don't need semicolons. I don't know what it is, but still, this is what is my view. What is your thought on this, Jagdish?
yeah, as you rightly said, like the requirement or need is driving the current world. So if you are adapting the microservices or the Kubernetes, Dockers, whatever the thing, so based on that, so should be well aware of the things. Like as Swami clearly mentioned, the microservice. There might be other teams who are working on a different programming language. If you are familiar with the multiple things, so you are good at it. Like so,
Yeah, it will help us. We never know if it is a small bug and other team is pretty busy. They might at least tell you that, hey, the bug is in this line. Can you change this condition or fix it there?
yeah,
If
because knowing
you,
one language will easily, so you can learn other language. So most of the programming language, so here and there, so the syntax, but except everything is like similar kind of thing. So you can
true,
easily learn.
true. I mean, we have to, as Jagdish, you're mentioning, the requirements is driving now.
Yeah,
Now,
exactly.
I can't say that, okay, I don't want to learn YAML templates. I'm not comfortable. Uh, means it will not suit, because you're writing your program, your team will ask, can you go and check why this build pipeline is not working? So you can't tell that, okay, I'm able to compile my code on my box. I don't know why it is not working. At least you need to pair up with the infrastructure or the DevOps team to go and see that where the build is failing, in which state it is failing. Is it because the compilation problem, or is it binaries missing, or is it the test cases, or I don't know what it is. But at least you should be able to decently jump in uh, with the DevOps team to investigate this. Cool. Thank you so much, Anusha. That was real wonderful. You kickstarted the session with Hello World in three programming language. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Let
Thank you.
us welcome Do you have anything to speak, Anusha? I'm sorry.
No, actually, you have told whatever I want to tell, so I'm fine.
Okay. I'm
You and
sorry.
Jagdish you have covered everything.
I'm sorry for that. I'll
No
stop.
need. No worry.
Okay. Cool. Anything to add from your side, Jagdish?
No, no, that's it.
Good. Okay. So
Yeah.
let's welcome our next speaker, Dinesh Kumar.
Yeah, hi Jagdish. Hi
Hi,
Swami.
Dinesh.
Yeah, I understand.
Hey, welcome. Could you please introduce yourself and we can get going?
Yeah, sure. So very good morning, guys. I'm working at Kisflow as product manager for the analytics squad, and also Microsoft MVP for the data platform category. And today I have cold, so I don't know how my voice is getting heard by you. Like there might be some kind of a different thing. And yeah, my passion is towards low code, no code space, and of course, Azure is also my passionate thing. Yeah, that's it for me.
Cool. Could you please share your screen? I can flash it and we can get going.
Yes, I have shared my screen.
Okay. You're in. It's all yours, Dinesh. I'll be in the backstage, but give us a shout if you need anything.
Sure, thanks. Okay, so hope my screen is visible. So my today's short talk is about querying the data that is present in Azure Cosmos DB in Azure Synapse Analytics via Synapse Link. Okay, so there are three entities that comes into picture. One is Cosmos DB, one is Synapse Analytics, and the third is Synapse Link. Okay, so you might you might think that why why such a need? First of all, Azure Cosmos DB itself is a database. You can query your data in Azure Cosmos DB itself, and you can get the results, right? But you should need something like a new service called Synapse Link, and why you need to query in Synapse Analytics, right? So these are different new artifacts that comes into my picture when I started to explore this feature a few months back. Okay, so this is what we are going to discuss about. More than what, I'll try to talk about why. Okay, so why Cosmos DB exists, what is the nature of the data, why Synapse Link exists, and what is the architecture pattern that lies behind to provision this Synapse Link. Okay, so basically Cosmos DB is a NoSQL database type where which means NoSQL, sorry, semi-structured data type, where your data will be stored in a JSON format. Okay, so whenever you execute a REST API, you'll get a response payload in some kind of JSON, right? Flower braces key value, and then key again there will be value. So there might be multiple levels, lists, and all those things. So like this schemaless, without a fixed schema, you can store your data in Cosmos DB. Whereas on the very other end, all the analytics tools, almost all the analytics tools, they are they are created in such that they understand the SQL language well. They understand the flat data hierarchy well. Okay, so this is the two silos. One is JSON data, which is schema-less, which is having its own advantage. The other is data analytics tools, uh, where it would need some kind of rows and columns kind of architecture pattern should be lying behind. Okay, so the what happens is, if you want to query simple scenarios, you can directly go into Cosmos DB, or you can use the API of Cosmos DB and write C# code or Python code, whatever language you are convenient. You can get the result, because the query is going to hit the Cosmos and get your results back. But when it comes to complex querying, let's say 1 year of daily sales data, okay, what is the highest selling product in this category under 50 rupees price range over the last year? Okay, so if you have so much this much detailed business use case, you cannot simply go and query Cosmos DB. Let's consider that the sales data is stored in Cosmos DB, and you cannot simply go and query on Cosmos this Cosmos DB. Then your computation would be going too much. Okay, I'm not saying that it won't accept the query, it will not run on all those things. It will accept, and it will run in a very very cumbersome manner, and it will incur a lot of compute cost, and it will result. Okay, so in simply say, it is like riding to a hill station with a normal gearless bike. Let's consider Scooty Pep or Honda Activa, some name we all know. Okay, so in a hill station, yes, you can ride in a Honda Activa or a Scooty Pep. You can go and ride, but just consider how much effort the driver need to put, and the vehicle itself need to put, right? So it is not designed for that. Like the same, Cosmos DB is not designed for analytics queries, to run the analytics queries. Okay, so then what is the purpose? How can this be resolved? Okay, that's what I'm going to cover up next. What I'm going to cover is the very very base standards, are frameworks that lies on the bottom of the sea, uh, over which such kind of databases and analytic services are getting created. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that. That's why. So this is me. I already did my introduction, so let me skip on this. And this is going to be my agenda. First of all, let me talk about the decoupled architecture. Okay, so we are just thinking that database is one single thing, where you store the data, you submit the query, and you retrieve the results. This is pretty much, we all know that. But this architecture has been decoupled for a long back itself, and that is why new paradigms have emerged, something called as data warehouse, data lake, and few other big data services, all those things. Okay, so next thing is, what is OLTP and OLAP? And I'll take a few words about Synapse Link, and I'll talk about when this can be used, when Synapse Link can be used, probably after demo. And yeah, so this is very basic thing. Okay, so for a database architecture, for a database thing, Cosmos DB is a database where it can store the data, and it can also compute the data, right? Compute, what I mean is, the queries you submit to the Cosmos DB, it the server will compute and return you the result, right? So this pattern has been decoupled, where a specialized storage services remain for storage, sorry, database services remain special for storage, and specialized services remain for compute. Like this, the architecture has totally been separated. Let me tell a simple example. Azure Data Lake is a storage service. You can use it just for storage, and whenever you need to query on top of the data, you can you can bind Azure Data Lake with any of the services like Azure Synapse Analytics or Apache's Databricks, sorry, Azure Databricks, all those things, to fetch the data from Data Lake, compute it, get the result, and once you're done with the analytics, you can flush out the compute resources, and you can just maintain the data lake storage resource alone. Okay, so why I just told this basic concept is the the architecture pattern of database. OLTP here I mean is Cosmos DB. OLAP here I mean is uh, Azure Synapse Analytics. Okay, so the purpose of those databases itself differ as you see here. Okay, for example, let me take this as an example: time of data, right? So which means in OLTP, it will be, it will be mostly the live data. Okay, it will be real time in another word. So whatever you changed it, that will be reflected in all the places where the database has been used, where the table or container has been used. Whereas in an OLAP database, it would not be mostly real time. Okay, except some exceptional cases where stream analytics comes into picture, and that is totally a different topic, and that is needed for very niche cases. For example, during IPL, while you are watching in Hotstar, you might be provided some personalized contest where you are made to participate along with your friends, and immediately the result getting published, and how that contest can be declared. All these will run via some stream analytics background. Okay, so that is different. But most of the case, analytics is something which will be done over historical data or the past data, to see the trends, to see the common pattern, and get some insights. Okay, so this would be the nature. And and even the query type also would be mostly simple when it comes to OLTP. What I mean by simple is you will either create something, or update something, or delete something, or insert something, something like that. Okay, update or insert, that both comes into the same. So mostly you will write data into the database. That will be the most heavy operation. Some read operation will be there. Whereas in an OLAP database, almost every query will be just select query. Only read query will be there, but that will be too complex. As I told earlier in the example, last year's everyday sales in a specific category under 50 rupees, and what to say, under so and so managers. Okay, so like this, you'll have a lot of business constraints where it would involve multiple tables to be joined together, apply group by, apply order by, which would incur subqueries, many complex. The query pattern will be itself will a complex pattern of query will be there. So that is why the data will be in a different format while it is in OLAP, and mostly it will be ETL, means which means you fetch the data from the OLTP database, do some transformation, and load into analytics database. And here I mentioned it as a cube format, which is traditional thing, where you'll have the two-dimensional data into three or four-dimensional data, so that the aggregations or the queries you inject would fetch you results quickly. Okay, now let us come to uh, this Synapse Link architecture, and then I'll go back to the previous example. Okay, so as I told earlier, Azure Cosmos DB is a transactional database, OLTP database, where it will store data in a raw format. Okay, but as I told earlier, for the analytics purpose, the raw format stored data will not be optimal, or will not be efficient to handle the queries. Okay, so this raw format data need to be converted to column store format. For the same, if it is not Synapse Link, you would need to do an ETL to store it in a column format data. Okay, and over the column format data, of course, you can do big data analytics or BI dashboards or machine learning via SQL, and also Apache Spark via Python, or some language. And to do this, the link that helps you to talk between Cosmos DB and the analytics tools is nothing but Azure Synapse Link. Okay, so let me come here. So what do you mean by this row oriented and column oriented? You might have a question. So row oriented is nothing but you'll have some primary key, and you'll have value in each cell based on the column. Consider this is a primary key, and this is something called roll number, and this is first name, and this is salary. Okay. So row wise your data will be stored something like this. Okay. Whereas in column oriented databases, column store based storage, your data itself will be stored something like this column. Okay. It might look like, see, this is also a column, but this is also a column. What is the difference? The difference is each of your cell or each of your column will be mapped according to the data type. Okay, for example, if you see here, this 002 and 004 both points to the John's same value, right? So it will map it something like this: 002 and 004 when it comes to the first name. If it is not same for the other categories, it will map it differently. Okay, as you see here. So what is the advantage of this thing is, if I have a complex query and I need to do a group by, and I have a where condition where name equal to Jones, then it will mostly compute the mentioned columns in the query, not all the columns. Okay. Whereas in a row based storage, even though if I have only the name column and the salary column, it need to parse each and every row, which includes computing this roll number column as well, which is not necessary, right? So whereas in column oriented, it will fetch and compute over these two columns alone, and these two columns also will be storing in a different manner, where the repeated values will be mapped together. Okay. So this is one simple example, but there is far more architecture level changes will be there when it is stored as a column oriented store. Okay. So that is what this auto sync does. Your row wise storage data will be auto synced as column column uh, uh, column columnar storage based data, so that whenever a SQL query that comes from a BI dashboard, or even a raw SQL query also, it will go and hit the analytics store, it will do the computation, and you will get the results very quickly. That is the core essential thing of creating this Azure Synapse link. And of course, for having this privilege, you need to do certain steps, which I'll show you in the demo. So now what I'm going to do in the demo is, first I'll enable the analytics store in Azure Cosmos DB container. Next, I will create a Cosmos DB linked service in Synapse Studio. Third, I'll query via T-SQL query using open row set function. Fourth, this is obviously another pattern. Okay, so querying and loading, it's not it's not step by step. It's just method one and method two. Consider like that. Fourth, I'll also load the data into Apache Spark data frame. Fifth, I'll analyze and get insights. Very simple. Okay, so I'll switch on to the demo part. So now I'm in my Cosmos DB homepage, where by default this Synapse. Uh, okay, let me share you the screen again. By default, this converted way of storage will not be enabled by Cosmos DB, because uh, it is not necessary to store all the row-wise stored data into a column store data, right? There might be few data which is not necessary by us to analyze it, right? So that decision is allowed uh, to us, means to user, so that we can decide. So in this, you just need to, in Azure Cosmos DB, under the integration section, you'll be able to find this Azure Synapse link, and once you click that, you will be shown with an example, you will be shown with an option like enable Azure Synapse link. That kind of option will be there. Since I have already did, that button is disabled now. And you can also select for which containers you would need this Azure Synapse link. Okay, so here, since I have only one container, I have selected my container over here, and this is the database and this is a container. So for this demo purpose, I have this. So but in real case, there will be a lot of databases and a lot of containers in each databases. You can select which container you would need to store it in a columnar format. Okay, so that's it in this Cosmos DB. And the next step would be in Azure Synapse Analytics. This is Azure Synapse Analytics workspace, where let me just show you that how you can link Azure Cosmos DB with um, with Synapse Analytics. Okay, so when you, okay, I don't want to go here. You can, so you can, you just need to select to connect to external data, and here you need to select your respective Cosmos DB. Here it is my Azure Cosmos DB SQL API. When I click on continue, I'll be able to see something like this. So I just need to name the linked servers, and then what kind of connection stream I'm going to give. So it by default it will be showing all the subscriptions listed over here. To make it list over here, already I have connected my Azure subscription with the Key Vault store in this link in this connected service. So it is showing me the subscription, and then it will show you the database name. And of course, once the Cosmos DB respective account name is selected, you can go and select the respective database name where you have enabled the uh, uh, Azure Synapse Link integration in Cosmos DB. Okay, so once you have all created this, you can go and do a test connection. Let us see what it says. Yeah, it is showing that connection is successful, and I'm not going to create because I have already created. So once you have created the linked service, then it's just another step. What is the step? You need to query the data, right? So you have you have Azure Cosmos DB, and you have already enabled the auto synchronization to store the data in column store format. And this Azure Synapse Link integration is also been done with Azure Cosmos DB. And we have also linked this Azure Synapse Analytics and Azure Cosmos DB in Synapse Analytics. And we have the reference of Synapse Link as well. So the next step would be the querying part. Okay. Now, first thing, let me show you how to query with a normal SQL language. Okay, as you see here, I have select top 100 from uh, from the respective database name. Okay, for before mentioning this, I have also mentioned a function or a reserved keyword called open row set. Okay, what is the purpose of this open row set is it will actually uh, do the understanding of the what to say, the data that comes from different entity, but that need to be queried in SQL fashion or in OLAP fashion. Okay, so this is very important reserved keyword, and this is the one that takes care of the entire thing. It is not that in this braces you just need to have Cosmos DB alone. You can have other services as well, and this open row set is the magic behind to query over all those semi-structured and unstructured databases. Okay, so I have this very simple query. Okay, even I can show you the data how it looks in Cosmos DB. Now I'm back in the Cosmos DB, which is a transaction database, and here you can see the how the data that looks over here. So these are the list of items which I have, and this is the single items view. So it is purely a semi-structured data, the JSON data, where I have few key values and also key and again a new list which again has a key and it has a string, sorry, integer array. Like this, I have mixed data type collected together. So let us see how it can be analyzed uh, in Synapse Analytics. Okay, now let me go and run this query. Let us see how we are getting the result. And you might imagine that why 10 seconds or 15 seconds. This is very small data. So this Synapse Analytics is designed for GBs of data, not MBs of data. Okay, so it would generally take 5 or 10 seconds to spin up the resources, submit the query, and get the result. Okay. So here we get the result, and you could see that the relevant values are present with values. So the relevant columns are present with values, and this is one part. And of course, you can also create some charts over here, and we could see the result both in the tabular and the and in a visual format as well. Okay, so this is one part, and the next part is we can also query Azure Cosmos DB data in Apache Spark also without much much effort. Once you have the Synapse linked service, you can simply create a data frame that which in which you enable that connection, and then it's all very simple. So you can do whatever you want using the data frame itself, right? So once you have the data loaded into the data frame, it's all the remaining things are just the Spark SQL's, sorry, the Spark own functionalities. And you can print the schema, and of course you can also do some query. So here I'm doing a group by query on each country, how many world canals are there. So I'm able to get that result, and sky is the limit. We have the data, we have the platform, we can query with SQL or we can query with Python. So the sky is the limit to achieve whatever we want. So yeah. And also I'd like to take a few minutes when to use this Synapse link. Okay, so it is not same or true that okay, we have this Azure Synapse link, then for whatever semi-structured data we have on the OLTP database, we can analyze it very easily. Okay, it's not something like that. So if you are sure that in your OLTP database there is no buggy data, there is no incorrect data that requires transformation. Okay, so in that case, I would recommend Synapse Link is better. But if you want to uh, dive into the OLTP data and you need to do some transformations. For example, you could see that this E tag is itself having a double quotation within this, right? And for some reason you don't need that. Let's consider something like that. And this attachments is having a slash at the last, just for an example. Okay, if you want to clean up all those things, then this Azure Synapse link might not be helpful, because the 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 actual transformation of this row store data to column store data is done by Cosmos DB by itself. It is auto syncing. It is not allowing the developer to dive in and asking him to do some ETL. Okay, the ETL itself is automatic. Okay, so if you are very sure that you don't need transformation in the OLTP in the Cosmos DB data, then you can simply use Synapse Link. It will save tons of time, really. Okay, that is one thing. And then next is obviously, as I told in demo, this Synapse Link and the Cosmos DB analytics can be used when the need is to scan over large scale of data, large amount of data. Okay, if it is of maybe within 1 GB or 500 MB or something like that, then obviously you can, the recommended thing is you can go and query in Azure Cosmos DB itself. You can and get the result. And of course, your uh, Cosmos DB should not contain embedded tables. Embedded tables, what I mean is the whole JSON, and within the JSON, many sub JSON tables would be there, and again within that sub JSON, many columns might be there. So the schema should not be too complex. If in that case, the data that gets stored in Synapse also would be in JSON. Okay, you'll not be able to analyze it also. Let me show you here itself. I have a query. Sorry, I have, yeah, something where you can see the data in JSON. Yeah, as you see here, again the location, it is stored in JSON only. Okay, how can we analyze the data if it is in JSON? Again, you need to do some parsing commands and all those things, right? So my recommendation is, if you don't if your query, if your data in Cosmos DB is somewhat flattened, then it is okay to use Synapse Link for analyzing in Synapse analytics. And of course, the need should be SQL based analytics, not data science based analytics, right? So in that, if it is SQL based analytics, you can definitely use Synapse Link. And these are few resources. And of course, thank you for the opportunity. And this is my LinkedIn handle. You can approach me if you have any questions. And thank you, Vishwa. I'm done.
Hey, Dinesh, thank you so much for this wonderful session. So I really liked it. I mean, what I understood is, like, if you have a lot of data, you want to play with a lot of data from the analytics perspective. At least, do I need to know something on Databricks and Apache Spark and this Azure Synapse? What I understand is we have the link to bring the content or the data from multiple data sources. But apart from that, if I know one technology, I should be able to pull in. I see that one is on the left side of the picture, one is on the right side of the picture, like data sources. It could be from flat file or from Cosmos DB or from SQL or from Stream. We can get it into the Synapse and it does some process and put it there. And after that, we can use uh, Power BI or some kind of analytics. Is my understanding correct, or am I missing
Yes,
something?
of course. You can connect with multiple sources, bring in data, analyze in Synapse, and you can connect with Power BI to do a depth analysis as well. Yeah,
Okay. So do I need to learn Databricks and other things, or it's on demand basis? We will have to step up and learn it.
it is on demands for me. Like if you are going to play with SQL,
Uh-huh.
then Databricks is not necessary. You can simply connect to the source and write the SQL queries, and just connect with Power BI or something. That is more than enough.
Ah, okay.
Databricks comes into picture when it is of data science, much data science related thing.
Cool. Cool. Perfect. So I really appreciate your time, Dinesh. Thanks so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge. Really appreciate it.
Thank you
Thanks so
so much.
much. So let's go ahead with our next speaker, Jagadish, who will be speaking on Azure function and SQL binding. Jagdish, could you please share your screen?
Yep. Yeah.
Thanks. Jagdish.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So myself Jagdish. So I work for AS as a module lead. So I have around 11 years of experience the .NET, so on the Azure. So me and Swami and Anusha work together. So this the same company. So thank you guys. Thank you for joining the session. So we'll start. So integrating Azure SQL and Azure function with the SQL bindings. The recent MS build, so they have added this feature. So like adding the bindings with the SQL in the Azure function. So we'll go and look into how it works and what are the advantages we get over it, all those things. So the prerequisite, so all the programs, so the Azure functions which it created in this demo or in .NET 6. So we are using Azure SQL. So I'm using a serverless, so Azure SQL with a serverless thing and using Azure functions. So we'll be pretty like aware of this Azure function, how it works, and the SQL, and having a knowledge on C Sharp. And so I'm using Visual Studio 2022. So C Sharp, MS SQL. So writing a basic queries and knowing those things. Azure functions. So writing a simple Azure function. So and we are using the triggers here like HTTP trigger to call this Azure functions. So technology is the same. So this is the information is something like worth for the .NET Lala. So when we do the sessions, like so where Swami has like taught taught us, and so we adopted it like so. I really like the way so it was like because so whatever we're doing, so we are learning and we are presenting it. So please apologize for any mistakes. So we are ready to learn, and so what are the things we learned, so we are ready to share the knowledge to you.
Yeah, one point to add over here, Jagdish, is like if you take any a small concept or anything, it might have depth and depth knowledge and as well as width also. So for it will be very tough for. I mean, I'm not telling it's very tough, but it depends upon how deep you're going into some technology, maybe like Azure Functions or gRPC or Web API or
And the
minimal API.
synapse, so like Synapse, the session on
Exactly,
synapse.
exactly. I mean, it takes a lot of time or a lot of experience. Like there might be very small thing, example, but you might never got a chance to use it.
Hmm.
So that's where I started using this slide saying that, hey, I'm just learner. I'm learning. Back to you, Jagdish.
Yeah, you said it rightly. So there are so many things lying beside us, and we don't know how to use it. So we get advantages over it. So if you know it, so you can use it anyway. So that is the reason we started learning the things and sharing our knowledge to it. So on this thing, this session, so first we'll see what is Azure function and what is a serverless, and we'll just have a glance on what are Azure bindings and their advantages. And we'll, as usual, we'll go with the demo. So purely on demo. So writing an Azure function connecting the database, and so input and output bindings, all those we will see. First, Azure function. So when people say Azure function is a serverless, what is happening is, so we don't need to bother about the underlying infrastructure, the scaling up or maintaining the infrastructure. We don't need to bother about this because on behalf of us, Microsoft will take care of it. So we create an Azure function. So made it as a serverless. So you run the number of calls, like the computation power, the time used. So only for that time you will be charged. So one lines are really liked by serverless is from scale 0 to scale n. Like you can scale to the n and you can scale down to scale 0. So there is nothing. Scale 0 is nothing. So that is the beauty of this serverless. So with this Azure function, so we can have multiple options like we can have like a HTTP trigger, so where someone calls an endpoint, so that will be triggered, or when a new message was into the queue, so we can have like a queue trigger, so blob trigger, so like in the storage, so when something is added, so that was there. But the thing is here we don't have a SQL trigger here because still now so the micro was not it was not available, so the SQL trigger was not available, but it is SQL binding. So what is the difference with the trigger and binding? The trigger is like initiate or instantiate that particular thing. So you create an Azure function, so someone has to call that. So that's how the trigger works, like the triggering point, whether you call with a HTTP trigger or when something like a message is available in a service bus queue or a storage queue. So whatever the thing. So that way, this function will trigger and it start working. It execute the function. Like simply calling in a function. So in our code, how the binding works is the connection. Like it will connect to the things. Like if you see in this picture, so it can connect to the SQL database, like whatever the so the taken like the input it is coming from the when we call this Azure function, it will take that and move that to a SQL, like the connect together, like connecting multiple applications, all those things. So previously we used to have like a Cosmos, the connectivity, input binding and output binding, so everything will be available here. So here we specifically talk about a SQL, what the input binding does for the SQL. So mostly the input binding is reading the data. So once we connect to the SQL and we have an input binding in place, so we can directly read the data and we can show as the result of it. When output binding was there, so when the function was triggered, what it does is like whatever the logic we have built in Azure function, and it will invoke and write the data to the SQL database. That's how it works. Like here, the input binding for the reading and the output binding is for the writing. Here it will read from the DB. Here it writes to the SQL. So before this, there are a few consideration because it's in the preview, the SQL binding, and it's a public preview. So as I previously mentioned, the SQL binding doesn't have a trigger. So you now know so what is trigger and what is binding. So we are not using as a SQL trigger. It is just only binding. We need to have a supporting triggers to call that. So in our demos, we are using HTTP trigger, and it support the SQL bindings 2x and later functions. And you can check the multiple examples for the samples. So for this binding, we need SQL. Either it is Azure SQL or the SQL Server database. We need to have a connection string in place. We'll connect to the database or the server and to perform these operations, so that it will read from the database while using input binding, and it will write to the database while using output binding. It is in the public preview. Still, the things are evolving. So few of the things will not supported. For example, data type and text or image are not supported. The data upstairs will fail. So please be considered. Maybe in the future they might be added or the new features and all those things. So we'll go for the demo. So first, let's. So I already have an existing Azure function, but we'll start with the freshly. So so simply add a new project. I'll completely add a new project. So I'll select Azure function and the next. So what is my function? SQL binding. Line function. Next. So I'm using .NET 6.0 as long-term support. So the type of function, which one you want. So you can, from the drop down, you can select. For now, I'm selecting SQL input binding. So connection string setting name. So if you want to have a connection string setting name, my DB connection string. This is just a configuration name. So where it will contain the complete connection string. So in the Azure function, it will access using this option. So you can mention here, so which table you want to read or view, or you can do at a later point also. For now I'm just keeping as it is, the DBO table one, and I'm just doing a create. Here it will ask for the connection dependency, like here we can select, so what is the type of DB and all those things. We can skip it, so we can do it manually. So I'm just skipping it, or if you want to do it, so you can select. So if you SQL Express local DB version, so we can select, so which the DB and all those things, it will create the necessary things for you. I'm doing it just a cancel. So if we go to the local setting charts, so that was not available, and let's look into the code. So if you see the function which we just created, if you observe, so it was an HTTP trigger. So with authorization level function, it's a get request, route was null, and so there is another parameter, so which is SQL, and it says select star from table, like a simple select query. So a specific table, and which is of command type. So we can have multiple commands here. Store procedure, table direct text. So using string and connection string. So this is the name, so which we have given at the time of creating this Azure function, and the result was available. So that would be available to result. So that result will be available here. So if you run this function, so this will not work because the in the local settings.json, so the connection string was not available. So we'll just add that. So this thing DB connection. Next thing is to add the connection string. For that, in my Azure, I have a database, so which is e-commerce. So this is my query editor. So let's go into it. So it will open a editor window. You can check the same thing in our local also, like in the Visual Studio Code. So you can have this SQL Server extension. From here also you can have this. Here I have the same database. Like, okay, just try to open it at the time. So let me re-enter the password. So meanwhile, we can see, so what are the tables were there, so how the relations were there, this here. So we have two tables here, customer and orders, where the customer has having uh, four columns, like customer ID, customer name, and customer phone, where customer ID is a primary key, customer name and the phone, and we have a DBO orders. So in the DBO, orders has order ID, which is a primary key, and item, price, and the customer ID, which is a foreign key. So it has a relation with the customer and the orders. Let's go. Yeah, I'm able to open it. So I just connected in the Visual Studio Code with the same. So we have some them. Let's run a simple query. So we can see this. What is the data available in the, yeah, I have couple of data, like I have 4 records that is available here. So do the same with orders. So I have only one record with the order, so which the customer ID, like the customer one has done an order for it. So this is my database. So I have my connection string which is lying there. So I'll just copy it. I'll- So I have pasted it here. So just choose some small modification here because we don't have a table one here. So let's put customer, so which we have a table. So the customer. So I kept the customer. So let's run this. So this is how when you this see this, then when we install this, so if you see this dependencies and the package, so just let's run this. Sometimes it loads very slow. So if you press any enter key or something key, so it will show up the other details. So I also have the DB scripts and everything. So on the function SQL bindings and the database, we have a customer SQL and guest customer by ID. There is a procedure, store procedure, so which is having a get customer by ID. So it simply do a select statement with the where clause. So we are all using this. So how to call the custom, like read the data from the table, write the table, and call the store procedures and all those things we will see. So my function is up and running. Let's do a copy of it and let's run over here. It's a simple get function. I'm just trying in the browser. See, so I'm able to retrieve the information. So all this information, all the users, 4 users were there. So if you observe this, so like the amount of time it took me to write, to read that data from a database with the Azure function. Previously, we used to have like connecting to the database, like so the simple ADO.NET or the entity framework. So whatever the choice you have, you can use it and you can retrieve the data and you do the whatever apply the business validations or the business logic and everything, and you can showcase your data or write the data to a database. So with the SQL binding, so these are the advantages we get. So you simply write it over here and just pass the connection string over here and call the data and write the data. So I'll go with a sample thing. So I have prepared some examples here. So we'll go with the customer. So what I did is like added the customer properties, like what are the values that were available in the table: customer ID, customer name, customer phone, and I also have a table poco class like for order ID, item, and price. So get customer, I have created an endpoint so where it will do a get customer. So if you see, observe here, so HTTP trigger same the customer, I'm passing the sequence connection and everything, so it will showcase the result. And get customer by ID, there are multiple ways you can call get customer by ID. I'll show you the what are the different ways. This is one way, like get customer by ID. So where you have select star from table where customer ID is equal to a specific ID value. How this HTTP the trigger, so we can modify is in the route. So we can have a customers and ID. So where the user will pass ID parameter in the route value, and that will appended here. And we need to add this. So we need to specify what the parameters were. So the ID value here, what we are passing to the query, and what we get it from the input on the route. And the next thing is same, so the connection string and the enumerable result, ilog or log, and everything is same. So this will get the result for you. I'll simply run this function SQL bindings. So I have a postman collection here, so where like add customer, add multiple customers, update a customer, like put operation, get customer by ID, so get orders, all these things. So the collection were there. So once it is up and running, so we can check those things like how it is working. So here we'll go with the get customers. So do a send, a simple get call. Yeah, we got the four values. We'll go the get customer by ID. So if you observe this, the path, how it was there, you need to pass the customer and the customer value here over here. So that what we described in our Azure function, the route, customers, and the ID, and run the query. So we'll change it to 4. So we got the result. So the next thing is the other way. So just do a comment, comment it. So if you observe here, I have written a store procedure. So which I previously shown you. This store procedure guest customer by ID, where I am just calling the sample customer ID with the where clause. The same working here. So if you observe the thing, so the route was same. There is no change to it. And here instead of we are calling select star from table, so we just simply put our store procedure name. And here the command type will differs because previously we are using a text. Here we are using store procedure, and the parameters the C same. So the same as it is we are using it, and we are writing the thing. Just run it. This is the other way using a SQL binding. So how to read from a store procedure, how to call a store procedure and read the data from here. And if you observe here, I am directly keeping the customer, the object which I created, because it will have a strongly tag. So previous example, so when we created with the basic template, um, in the SQL binding, so it was an object. So we can have a custom the thing, so that will have a more the strongly tag. So gee, this is still up, not at running. Let's wait for a couple of minutes, not minutes, couple of seconds. So meanwhile, we'll check with the other things. So we have seen get customer by ID, get customers, and add customers. For the add customer also, there are multiple ways we can do it. So we'll see. So what are these things? Let's rerun it again. So before that, we'll check this function also, like how this function add customer will works. Here I'm just directly using a post call from the customers. What I'm doing here is I'm reading the values from the body, the post request body. So what are the JSON input I'm JSON is there? So I'm just converting the customer array, like multiple uh, records we can insert using this, and I'm simply selecting the DBO customer. That's it. And this is an output binding. So because here we are writing the data into a database table, so I'm just keeping. So SQL DBO customer string customers, and the connection string was there. But if you observe it, so we don't have this command type because that is not necessary for the output binding. So and we are using async collector, so where it will collect those information and it will do the add up. So what I'm doing is, so what are the values which I received, so I'm just looping it and adding to the customer this async collector, and the created result I'm just passing the route, so which it has to be routed API, and the route which I mentioned the customer, and that is done. So we can pass the values also here. So what are the value, if you want to pass the what are the results for the you can pass the customer values. So I'll do a simple run, and the thing is put and post both works like here. So if you what it does is, so for the customer, so for the customer ID is a primary key. If you try to add the same data, so again try to add the same user with again, what it does is it replace the existing data. Like for example, so it will for example, if you want to insert a customer 001, you already the record was already available in the table and you try to do the same again. So what it does is it will just an update, like it will find a particular customer. So if all the values are same, that will be same. If any of the value was differed, so that will be updated there. If the record was exactly same, so nothing will happen, or it doesn't create any duplicate record. So it automatically identify and it will sort it out and it will create a thing. So my thing was there. So let's go to the update customer. So update customer is also same, like, so only um, the HTTP verb is different. So the remaining everything is same. So if you see, but the thing is here, so I'm not updating multiple customers. I'm only updating a single value at a time. So let's go to my postman collection. So here add customers. So I'm just adding a customer. So what I'll do is I'll I'll do is so first the get customers. I have four records. C03 like customer 03 is a phone number 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0. What I'm doing is now is so I'm just removing the 0 and the remaining values are same, and I am adding a new record here. Um, your function. I just do a send. So you can see that executed and the status was 201. It was created. So let's go to the get customer. So now we must we need 5 records. I'll do a send request. So we have 5 records. The new record was inserted, and if you observe here the C003, so then 0 was missing. So because in the add customer section, so we removed it. So it also work the same way, like update customer way also, like put request. So it automatically identifies C03 record was already available. It only replaces the deferred value. And if the value is not available, it will insert it. So, but if you observe it, it is not adding a duplicate value over here. That is the advantages. You can simply do the update customer with the 0. So it was created. So, and I'm just added 0 again. So get customer, I'll do a get customer. If you see C03, 0 was added. So as I mentioned, there are multiple ways of doing um, like updating the customer. So this is one way of doing it. So the other way is, so how you know the difference between input and output binding is, the one thing is like if you specify the out here, out in the parameter out value here. But in the previous example, the I sync collector, we don't need to do it because it automatically connect to the database. So it automatically does, it automatically knows. So what this binding was there. So we can do this way, and the plain basic version of this thing is output binding is like the same thing, route customers, HTTP request and SQL DBO customer. If you observe here, we are passing the parameter here, the command type. So we are passing the command type there and the connection string. So you have to specify the out customer. What I'm doing is I'm manually creating a customer here. I'm just running the thing. This is one way of doing it, and the other one is read from the from body. You can also read from the your HTTP request also, where the data is coming. So you can read data from whether from the HTTP request and all those things. You can do it there. Here I'm reading from the customer from the body. If you read it from the body, so you don't need to have like a command type, the text and all those things that was not required. So the simply by calling this, so you are able to so get the data over here. So that is one thing. And I also added get orders. Get orders. Get order also work the same way. What I'm doing is select star from orders tables where the customer ID was a customer ID. So if you observe the route, so where it is having customers ID and orders. So following this routing paths, the proper paths. So if you observe my postman collection, so all this only I have the customers which will get and customer which a customer ID. Post customer, the route was same, so only the HTTP was differ. it is also the same, but we are passing multiple values. And if you see the get orders, so I'm using the same routing path customers and passing the ID, and I'm just fetching the orders. If you want to fetch the further, so like want to fetch the further specific order, you can pass order ID also. But I haven't written any Azure function to fetch the specific order. So this way we can create a simple API kind of thing, like with the function, with the customer and the order tables. So as my database has very small, because for the demo purpose I only have two tables and one store procedure. So if something my requirement is something similar like this, we can utilize this SQL bindings input and output. We can read the data and we can update the data. So this manner. So and the routing paths, if you observe in the service collection, the postman collection that were available. So I also run this simple. So I want to show you this how the orders we can check all those things. And you can also give this specific thing like the query parameters, or if you have a this thing store procedure, you want to call it from the configurations thing, so you can do that way also. You can call it from the what are the value that were available in the connection string, sorry, configuration file. You can append that value in the function. So if the value of the query is continuously changing, or the store procedure is continuously changing, or you have written a function in a such a way that it works for multiple cases, so you can do that was also. So I'll show you that way how to do it. I'm just simply calling this orders. Yeah, the order was there. So for example, so for C002, so there is no orders. It shows an empty. So it will the simple select query with the orders with the customer ID as a very close. So that it is fetching the thing. So but you are giving it as an API endpoint. So where the consumers like the API consumers can utilize this and fetch the data, whatever the thing that they wanted. And the next thing is which I mentioned. So you can call the procedure from the connection string, get customer by ID. So I'll do a person. I'll simply go to my local settings.json. What I'll do is I'll add my procedure. Okay, this is done. So I'll just do a copy paste it. I'll do a run. So now I'm just calling my store procedure. I'm just not mentioning directly here from my configuration file. I'm just reading that value and I'm executing it. Let's run this thing. And even the parameter IDs and all those things, if you want to have a specific value of you can also do it from the similar way, like with the percentage. You can mention it over here and you can call that. Let's see, my application is up and running. So while it runs, so this is my GitHub link. So uh, honey. So where you have the every example here. So like whatever the codes of which I given a demo to you. So the Postman collection, the sequence bindings, and everything was available here.
Jagdish, you can post it here, Jagdish, under the comments.
Sure, sure.
Uh, yeah, so that it gets flashed there. Anyone wants to try, they can go grab this.
So guest customer by ID. Get customer by ID. See, I got the result. So the specific thing I got the result. If what I do, so here I'm not mentioning my store procedure directly where I am reading it from the configuration file. I'm just doing it. I'm able to retrieve it. So what are the value that I was mentioned in the configuration file that was available here. So now we know the concept like how the SQL bindings input and output binding works, how to connect with the store procedure, the tables, like the normal select queries, and how to pass the commands values and the input and output bindings. So with this knowledge, so we can create um, multiple things like so it's up to the imagination. So and the need and the requirement, so we can create all those things. Yeah, that's it, folks. If you have any queries, you can post it over the comment section or you can reach out on my LinkedIn. So I'll just do a post. I think I'm not enabled. Like, so.
Okay. You can go to the YouTube channel, the live YouTube link, and you can post it there. Or else you send it to me, I will post it.
Done, done. I posted in the comments.
Oh, you posted in the comments? That's cool then.
Yeah,
You should see that. Oh, okay. That's pretty cool. So, thanks so much, Jagdish, for this wonderful session. And hope everyone learned something, even though it was a very short 3 sessions event. But all the sessions were different. Like one was on Hello World of three programming languages, and one was on uh, Azure Synapse, and one is on Azure Functions. So let's say uh, happy rest of the weekend, whatever is left over, and see you all. Bye. Stay, folks. Stay safe. Bye.
and happy learning, I guess.
Yeah, right. Thanks. Bye.